Rafael, welcome. Thank you for taking time to, be a part of our BJJEE Eastern Europe podcast.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Man, like right off the bat, you had a crazy couple of months to say the least, really turbulent ones. I would like
Mhm.
to know, how are you feeling? How are you right now?
I feel amazing. Very happy, very grateful. Um, Getting to open up my school soon. I competed last weekend in the gi for the first time in several years. So, life is good. Stay positive, stay productive, and very happy to be where I am now.
So, how long has it been? 3 years, as far as I've read, since you've competed in the gi, right?
Yeah, 3 years, and that the last time was in the Masters, the Master Worlds, and the year before that, it had been. I mean, I competed 3 years ago at the Master Worlds, and then before that, it was a full year at the previous Master Worlds since I had competed. So I haven't been very active in the gi in the last 5, 6 years, just due to pursuing MMA and committing to that. Um, it had been a while since I fought a 20-something-year-old.
Yeah.
And last weekend was the first time in a while. Like I said, I'd only been doing Masters, and it went really well. So that felt good. It was a good confidence booster, and just really missed the gi. It was great to be back in it. It felt so good, and I was just very happy with how things went.
How did it feel how did it feel coming to it? Like from the decision being made to come back to the gi matches and to the gi competitions, were you certain of these successes the successful match of you winning, or was it like, I haven't competed for quite a while. I haven't competed quite a while with somebody that's so younger than I am. How
Mm-hmm.
did you feel like?
Yeah, I was definitely a little nervous. The training went great. It was a short camp, because of how everything is. I only had a couple weeks of real training to get ready for it. Before that, I was just rolling like once or twice a week, just a little bit, just to kind of keep my sanity,
Yeah.
during quarantine. But I got a good hard 2 weeks in, and I felt good. I've never stopped training in the gi completely. Even during my MMA career, I always taught in the gi, and of course, I would roll with my students. And every now and then, I would get really hard rounds in the gi, like with Shanji Hibeto or Victor Hugo. But it just wasn't my focus. I wasn't training for competition. I was just rolling for fun. But at the same time, I did feel like I was still getting better in the gi, making improvements, taking the things that I've learned from MMA, the positions and the different style of jiu-jitsu that I learned to adapt to MMA. Bringing that into my gi game, I did feel, like I've still made progress, but it's hard to know how you're going to match up, with the young guys after being away for so long. So I was definitely nervous, but I really believe in my jiu-jitsu a lot. I believe in my style. If I can get to a good position, I believe that, especially in the gi, I'm going to finish them. If I can get so far ahead of them, they won't be able to come back. And that's my style. And so I was confident, a little nervous, but everything went great. I executed the game plan perfectly. And so, I'm looking forward to getting new challenges in the gi and just being back, just for the pure love of it. Of course, the challenge. I really realized how much I missed it on Saturday night. It felt so good to suit up and go out and do what my first love. Jiu-jitsu is what I first fell in love with. I missed it. That's all.
How did you fall in love with it though? Like as far as I remember, you started training jiu-jitsu at 13, but you had contacts with jiu-jitsu training actually in one way or another earlier on. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Mhm. So my father is a Jeet Kune Do instructor. I grew up, with my father. He's a lifetime martial artist, and at that time when I was a kid, His main focus was JKD and
Mm.
following, Bruce Lee's footsteps. And so, martial arts has always been a part of my life, and JKD is very much the first mixed martial arts. Bruce Lee's philosophy was so far ahead of his time of looking to incorporate all the martial arts together into one complete system. And he understood all the ranges of combat, from weapons to kicking range, punching, trapping range, into clinching. And there was some ground fighting elements inside of JKD. It wasn't very clean. It wasn't technical. It was more like, catch wrestling fighting style. It wasn't uncommon to do like side headlocks, and try to put the person's arm inside your legs. It was rougher stuff, neck cranks and some leg locks and stuff. And so we were familiar with ground fighting and that it was important, but it wasn't until my father discovered Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when I was around 12 that we learned that there was another level of ground fighting. And my dad's a smaller guy, so he fell in love with it, and he gradually made that his focus, was to travel and learn jiu-jitsu. And he was bringing it home to me, and as I got a little older, I started traveling more myself, so he could focus on the academy here. And by the time I'm like 15, I'm traveling all over to learn and compete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then when I turned 16, I went to Brazil for the first time.
Oh, so it was
to
really
compete.
early on.
Yeah, it was 99. I was 16, and I competed in my first world championships. And I went to Brazil every year after that. That was it. I mean, right around that time, 15, 16, especially when I went to Brazil, I was fully dedicated. I was in love with it, and I knew that I wanted to be a black belt world champion one day.
Yeah, and you received your black belt at 21, right?
Yes.
So 21,
right.
that was in 2004, and
Mm-hmm.
you were the youngest American to have received his black belt back in the day in Jiu-Jitsu.
At that time, yeah.
Excuse me?
At that time.
At that
Afterwards, there have been guys that were younger than me, but at that time, I was the youngest. And my father and we became the first American father and son Jiu-Jitsu black belts.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It really made me laugh, but not like LOL, laugh out loud once I read it on your website. Do you remember, what was it like? Were you guys promoted at the same time, or was it was he promoted first?
He got his black belt. He got his black belt a year before I did.
Oh, okay. And how did it feel? Did he congratulate you immediately, or was it teasing you that he was still a black belt before you were?
Oh no, we were just so happy, and I mean he deserved it sooner than I did, in my opinion. And it was just emotional all around. Whenever he received his, when I received mine, it was a good feeling.
It was a good time. This is something I'm really interested in knowing. So all the way in 24, you received your black belt. Today is 2020, so it's been 16 years apart. How does the path from the white belt to the black belt differentiate from the path onwards from the black belt up until today? How has your perspective changed, and how did it feel like in global?
Oh man, well, there's once you get your black belt, I mean, you're going to spend the rest of your life there, right? So I've learned and grown so much more in the time that I've been wearing my black belt. I mean, it's almost double. Let's say I really started jiu-jitsu around 13, maybe even a little later, because it was just so once a year, would we have access. So let's say that's 8 years from 13 to 21. And now I've been a black belt for nearly 16 years. So it's like double the amount of time, So you're going to you're going to grow even more. I think too many times people see the black belt as the end, right? Like, oh, once I get to black belt level, I'm going to know it all. I'm going to have all the answers. And, you're not really going to change much, but that's not the case at all. I'm a completely different person in every way, shape, or form on the mats now than what I was when I first received my black belt. So, you're going to be a forever student, and for me, it's even more, I think, more rewarding and more of a real study. You're really now like trying to critique the smallest little things inside your game, and you have to ask yourself, how do I explain this? How do I communicate this? Why do I do it this way? Is every element of my game equal, so to speak, or am I too strong here and too weak there? You really want to you really think about balancing everything and trying to have that black belt level technique and knowledge, in the complete, in every single aspect of your game. So, I think it's just a deeper study, but even more rewarding. For me, I believe that teaching is a big part of that as well. Once you become a black belt, you should definitely be teaching if you haven't already. And that helps you grow and helps you understand what you have to say, what you have to give back. But it's so much fun. And I believe that, every year I'm just better and better and better and better. And my understanding gets deeper and better. Your ability to communicate super complex things in the simplest way,
Mhm.
those are all the things that I enjoy dedicating myself to these days.
So when you're talking about communicating things better, you're talking about communicating things better to your students and to yourself, right? Like when you're thinking about
Yes.
techniques and things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How does one become better at that? So is it just a thing of practice, like a thing of like you gotta get to know and understand the way that you're thinking yourself? Or do you have some tips for maybe like the prospective coaches or people who have been coaching for quite a while already?
Well, I mean, if you're just training, I think it's very important that you have a focus. Of course, coming onto the mats, doing a class, getting your rounds in, that's obviously going to help make you better, no matter what. But if you really put into your mind that you have a specific goal, a specific focus inside training, a certain element to your game, something you're trying to add in, something you want to focus on, you're going to get more progress, and you're going to be able to create data. You're going to be presented with data because you were focused on this thing. And if something messed up, someone reacted in a certain way that you weren't prepared for, that's a question right there. And then you have to ask those questions.
Mhm.
This is how I came up. My father and we never had a black belt instructor here in our state to learn from on a daily basis. Everything we did was traveling. We travel, learn, bring it home, drill it, work on it, try to do it in our training. That was
Mhm.
our focus. And then we would come up with questions. I had a notebook. I'd always write everything down, and I would take my questions with me on the next trip. And the first thing I did is I said, hey, here's all my questions.
Mhm.
I need to get these answered, right?
Mhm.
And at the same time, I'd be studying, watching everybody, seeing what they were doing, people that I trained with that had a game I wasn't familiar with. I would ask, and I would write it all down. And then I would go home to my father, and I said, look, here's everything that I learned. And then we would work on it. And, it was just that cycle over and over and over again. And nowadays, people, they take it for granted that they have these amazing black belt world champions, or just, old school legends and guys with so much knowledge that they get to learn from right there, 5, 10, 15 minutes away every day. And they don't really study. They
Mm,
don't dive in. They just say, oh, I'm going to go there. And they kind of go through the motions.
mm,
They're not fully plugged in to what they're trying to achieve during their time on the mat. And a lot of times they don't have any questions. They're not super goal oriented. Of course we all want to get better. That's an easy goal, but what position, what technique are you trying to achieve today? When you roll with this person versus that person, what is your goals?
mm.
And so that will help a lot in helping people get better. And I think when you really study it like that, you have a deeper understanding inside your mind, and it'll naturally make you a better teacher, because you can explain to everybody, hey, I remember when I did this, and this reaction used to give me a problem,
Mm.
and I figured out, by asking a question or whatever, or making adjustments in my training, you come up with the solutions, and that's your story in teaching,
Mm.
and then it helps you explain your whys and your process. You can't just, okay, here's a move and here's the steps.
Yeah,
It's got to
that's
be
it.
it's got to be deeper than that. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And so naturally, that will help you become better at communicating that to other people. And then just teaching itself, it takes practice. The way you present the technique, and then when you watch everyone practicing, if they're all making the same mistake, well, then you forgot to say something,
mhm, mm,
or like you start to figure out what are the natural mistakes people make, when they practice a move, when they learn a move, and you get better at saying everything, but not saying too much at the same time, right? Like that's how
mm.
it has to be simple, and you can't talk for 10 minutes
Yeah.
and lose everyone's attention,
Yeah, too much information.
Um, yeah, too much at once, so how you present a technique inside of 3 to 4 minutes, and then maybe follow up with it, and then follow up with it again, all these things will make you a better teacher, but then it also helps you understand the technique on a deeper level.
Yeah, to find solutions to problems, as you mentioned earlier on, right?
Yes.
What has been the biggest problem, either technique-wise or either game-wise or either, anything jiu-jitsu concerned for you? What's the one problem that you had most trouble with finding the solution to?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to say. Like if we're talking about competing, I would say it was a bit of, there was a level of confidence that I had to reach, and in order to be able to see myself, being one of the best. That took some time coming up the way I did. It was harder to not idolize the top guys, because there was so much more distance between us,
Hmm.
and I didn't have consistent access to them. So then by the time I got to be a black belt and I'm fighting the guys that I grew up watching, it was hard. It was harder than what it is now, because now everyone's in the U.S. for the most part. You see them all the time. They're a little more accessible,
Hmm.
and you can compete much more frequently.
Hmm. Hmm.
In my time, the only way you were going to compete against the best is if you went to Brazil, and unless you move there and live there, you're maybe only able to do that once or twice a year, and so it was a harder hurdle to
Hmm.
get over, to get to that point where I'm like, okay, this is me now, this is, I am one of the best, and I have the ability to beat everybody. That took some time. Um, you know, let's see, like as
How
far
did
as
you how did you find
technically,
confidence? How did you find that confidence? Was it a thing of just, putting yourself into the fire, or has it been something else?
definitely the mentorship that I received from Saulo Ribeiro helped me a lot with the mindset, and gaining that confidence, and just training with him and Shanji
Mm.
by itself is just like, okay, man, if I'm training with these guys, I'm going to be ready,
Mm.
but he really helped me understand the sort of the mental warfare, and how to think, how to carry myself as a champion, how to see myself, how to make the transformation,
Mm.
the you that steps onto the mats or steps inside the cage, that can't be your normal day-to-day that needs to be, you need to be a different person, someone that's fearless, that doesn't hesitate, that is flowing with confidence,
Mm.
and just only positive, and maybe I wasn't always negative against myself, but sometimes I put the other person too far ahead of me,
Mm.
so I wasn't necessarily putting myself down, but I
Mm.
was just looking up to the other person so much that it would naturally put myself down, even
Mm.
though I wasn't doing it directly, and he taught me how to turn that off and just take my story and who I was, and kind of flip the narrative into something that was very, very positive. So, being that I didn't have an instructor, I was just training with blue belts, purple belts, or, I'm just from Oklahoma and all that kind of stuff, where I was like, man, how can I beat this guy? And I would be saying all those things. I would learn how to turn it around and say, yeah, I'm going to beat this guy,
Mm.
because of, the fact that I've worked so much harder and I've invested and I've dedicated myself and I deserve it, blah, 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 blah. You just flip the narrative, it's not half empty, it's half full. And that helped me a lot. But, and then of course, just, getting those wins, getting the rhythm.
Mm.
You get a good win that sets you up for the next win that's a little bigger, and you work your way up. And that's definitely how my 2007 came about. When I grand slammed, it was because the Europeans set me up for the Pan Ams. The Pan Ams set me up for the Brazilian Nationals. And then after I won the Brazilian Nationals, I was like, man, this is my year. I'm going to win the Worlds. I really started saying that,
Mm.
for months. And I wasn't saying that when the year started,
Mhm.
but because I got stronger and stronger and more confident throughout the year, it became something that I was saying to myself.
Yeah, but I mean, all of that fire had to be ignited with that, that spark that, that was instilled with that type of advice of basically like, um, as you said, flipping the narrative, that is filling your thought process with positive thoughts and basically like affirmations that you can do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, on the opposite side, you were telling yourself like, I don't have any chances in this, right?
Well, not that I didn't have any chance. I mean, it was my dream since I was a kid. I'd already fully committed myself to making that happen. But
Mm-hmm.
we all have doubts. We all have fears. That's the normal us, right? And you have to transform out of that. Now, not everyone has doubts and fears, right? There are some people that are naturally just extremely confident and whatever. They just win and that's it, But for me, I took my losses. I was never a world champion at a lower belt. And so if I had been winning the worlds as a blue belt and a purple belt, it would have been a little easier for me to say, okay, yeah, I'm going to win as a black belt too, but I was losing. I lost. I've lost a lot, but I just never quit. That's the point. I never let it break me, and I kept going and kept going. And I may have not have been at that level early on, but I worked myself up to that level, and I'm happy that my process was that way, because it taught me more, and it gave me more. It gave me more strength, because I know what it's like to lose. I've experienced that. I've experienced the lows, and I've overcome that. A lot of times, if all you do is win, you're used to winning consistently all the time. When you do lose, you don't know how to handle it, and people fall apart, and then they become really afraid of losing again, and it can tear them up. I had been through it all, and it just made me stronger, and it taught me more. It made me more familiar with who I am, and what I'm doing it for. And, so that's what I had to go through. It wasn't that I didn't believe it could happen for me. It's just, when you're standing across the mat from a multiple time world champion and you didn't even win, blue belt or purple belt or brown belt, it's hard to all of a sudden see yourself now as a black belt beating those guys, and there were some moments where I was just like, let me do my best to give them a tough time, and make it a hard match. But I didn't really see myself beating them until I had my turning point, and then it was, okay, now I'm here, I'm one of the best and it's my time.
Is that something you're trying to instill into your students? And how do you do that actually? How do you instill that type of the confidence that you taught yourself basically? Because referring to the last thing you said, like when you're used to winning, once you lose, you really don't know what you're coming to. You don't know how to pick yourself up. But it's not just about that. I mean, not having a black belt level instructor inside your own country actually had been, for example, as you said, it taught you to pay more attention to what you don't know, to take notes of the things that you don't know, and then to take those things, ask the right people, and try it out again. Is that something like in terms of the advice that you give to your own students outside of the mats that they should do, like writing their notes? And if so, what other things are you actually advising them to do in order to, further themselves, not just in terms of the technique, because you can have the best technique in the world, but if you don't believe in yourself, it's not going to come to use.
Yeah, so you've kind of asked two different parts. Here at my academy, we definitely have a culture of being a student. This is like getting an education. And, when you go to school, if you're going to Harvard, a university, you're definitely taking notes, right? You're learning from some of the brightest minds in the world, your professors at Harvard, and they're going to test you. And so you need to be taking notes, right? And you have to do homework. You have to study off the mats as well, or outside of school, and that's the same. That's the culture we try to preach here is, you are a student of martial arts. You have some, highly accomplished, great minds to learn from here. And you should 100% be taking notes. We have a curriculum, and people are studying their curriculum, taking notes of their classes and embodying that student mindset, which I think is very important. We try to preach that early on so it sticks with them forever. And it'll only give you better results, 100%, keeping a notebook, having your goals, tracking everything, writing down your questions, writing out your game. When you write it, you see it in your head. It's like mental repetitions, and so you can get those mental repetitions and fully like perform a move better without even having done it physically. But you got those mental reps, okay, I need to turn here. I need to do this because you wrote it down, you saw it, you thought about it, So 100% I bring that culture into my school. And it runs through the students, the instructors, everybody. That's how we teach Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here. Beyond that, as far as the mentality stuff, it's just things you have to talk about, at the end of the class, in the middle of class, like the mindset everyone should have coming into their training, how to get the most out of your training and out of each round. If you're a bigger guy training with a smaller guy, play guard, pull guard, work your movement, work your defense, but force yourself to start on your back. Maybe you have a weakness and that's the other person's strength, so don't avoid it. Let them get a little bit of their game going, and then you try to work your way out of it. Like I said, just always having a focus and limiting yourself. You can't, especially when you're trained with the same people every day, for the most part, your rounds tend to become, the same, right? They replicate themselves, especially when you become so familiar with each other's games. You kind of like, know how to play just right to avoid things, this and that. And next thing you know, you have the same round every time, and nothing happens. Nothing new happens. And so you have to, limit yourself, not always play your A game, go into their strengths, to spark improvement and make new things happen, try new things. So having that mentality, and that approach helps so much. Then as far as the confidence stuff and all that, that's something that I really spend time with on my competitors with, my team, the guys that compete. That's where it's really important for them. And one of the main things we talk about is just, of course, you need to have your auto suggestions, the things that you say to yourself, the self-talk, you have to have those in place, and that takes training, right? You can't just show up on the day of a competition and say, all right, today's the day.
This is it. Yeah.
Yeah, this is it, and you just start it that day. You know what I mean? You have to be doing it every day, the same way you train physically, technically. You got to be training mentally. You're training your mindset, your mind power, and you have to be feeding it, right? Feeding it quality food, the same way you have to eat healthy. What you say, the feed, the things that you read, write, watch. You need to be inspired at all times, and everything has to be very positive. Your visualization, meditation, all of those things help you control your mind to where you believe 100%. You just believe, and you have to back that up with hard training and knowing that you've done everything possible to be at your best. But when everything comes together just right, you train hard, you sacrifice, you diet, you do your conditioning, blah, 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 and you're feeding your mind every day with the best food, and you're saying the powerful things to yourself every day, man, you become a Superman. The day of, you're a superhero. You're not your normal person anymore. Now it's your time to shine. And so, number one, that thing that I always tell everybody is that, hey, if you're going to compete, why? Why do you want to compete? What is your why? What's your purpose? If you don't have a connection to that, a real emotional connection, you're never going to be as strong as the guy that does. And so that's the first thing, you got to figure that out. All right. Maybe you want to be a world champion. Okay. That's great. But why?
Why do you want to become one? Right.
Yes. And, for I find that actually for like my master level guys, it's easier for them to understand their why, because, they have families, they have kids, and they really want to be the best father possible. They want to be the best version of themselves for their family, that sort of thing. And that's powerful, and you have to hone that. You got to, okay, this is my why. And you take that every day to your training and everything you do, every day, even if it's just, to, just walk the dogs, right? I'm walking the dogs, but I'm thinking about how this is recovery, and, I'm spending time with my family, and blah, blah, blah. This is good. This is healthy. This is making me, everything has a reason,
Yeah, it's all about actually, like, once you're at that level, becoming better, not just for the sake of yourself, but for the sake of others.
Yes, for sure.
What has so I'm assuming that that's a big part of your why in this present moment. But what has been the why for you back in the day once you started? Has it been like defined for you, or has it just been like something that you felt naturally, especially because you started competing at such a high level from very early on?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm definitely naturally competitive. It is my nature, and my work ethic, and that the character, the sort of obsession that I have, definitely is passed on from my father. His I my why when I was a kid was to make my dad proud.
Yeah.
That's as simple as that. To do what my dad does and make him proud. His passion became my passion, and that was my why. But then I, seeing all our work, seeing everything that he gave, to invest in me, invest in our school, our students, how much that he gave, and in the history, and what we've achieved. It only, as I started making history, and I started putting our name in the history books as the first non-Brazilian to do this and do that and do this and do that. It made me get even stronger, and it was like it was our legacy. So much of it became about our legacy, and how it started as something so small from my father's dream, and grew into something that he built, and then was passed on to me. That was all the drive. That was all the drive that I needed, and because I was naturally competitive, I was never really too happy with my last performance. I always wanted to get better and better and better. I could always feel, especially I had Salo and Shanji kicking my butt every day. It was always very obvious to me that I could get better. And so it just drove me. My dad is a perfectionist, and so that definitely got passed on to me. But if I was going to say one inspiration more than anything, for me over the years, has definitely been family. I am an only child, so my parents, just all their support and investment into me, to pursue my dreams, and then my brothers, my training partners, my coaches, they became my family. These guys that I've been around for 10, 15, almost 20 years, that I feel just so blessed and privileged to call my brothers and call my teachers. You appreciate more and more, because these are guys that are the same as me. They dedicate themselves to learning and getting better and challenging themselves, and I see them all as my inspiration and my heroes. And wanting to representing them, and I never felt like I was just out there, especially in MMA. As I matured and having a deeper connection to my whys, I was never out there trying to win just for me. Never. It was always for us, and I just wanted to represent them to the fullest.
There is certainly something. I mean, I'm yet to learn the full extent of it, as I've been training jiu-jitsu for a little bit less than 3 years, so I'm still a baby. But there's certainly something in the whole atmosphere of the family, of your brothers and sisters, basically, and in the academy, in the gym, with the relations that you have with your coach. The lessons that you learn. And I can only imagine the extent. So I've been training for free. You've been training for 24 years. So that's 8 times the experience, in terms of years, not in the terms of mat time. What has been, of course, it's impossible to, just take one lesson or take one experience out of it all. But like the first thing that comes to mind, what would be the most treasurable experience and or the most treasurable memory and lesson that you took out from all of that time spending training and being with your BJJ friends and teachers?
Oh man, that's a heavy question.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that I treasure the most are definitely the relationships. 100%. Like just having these guys that, I have so many different levels. I have my students, the ones that are under me, and I have brought, like 20 people up to black belt level
Yeah.
now. My own black belts, and there's those relationships, and then there's my peers, even the guys that I compete against, that maybe aren't like my best of best friends, right? I don't call and talk to them
Yeah,
every
nonstop.
week or whatever, but when I see these guys that I've been fighting for literally 15 years, every time I see them, we show love, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And there's so much mutual respect, and I really appreciate I appreciate them, and what they've taught me, and just being on the journey together. You know, yeah, it's amazing. And then my brothers, my coaches, my teachers, my number one guys like Shanji, Salo, my Muay Thai coaches and MMA coach, from
Mm.
Evolution Thai, the guy that's in that picture right there with me. You can
Yeah,
see
yeah, yeah.
see,
There's a
see his
wonderful story behind
emotion.
it.
Yeah, you can see his emotion. My wrestling coach, like all these guys that have, when you literally share blood, sweat, and tears with someone for a decade plus,
Mm.
um, you become family, right? And so they're the ones that I treasure the most. And if I was going to say one memory, one experience, one night, it would definitely be that one right
Yeah.
there, because that's when everybody was there. That's the thing I love about MMA. It's not just my jiu-jitsu side. As a martial artist, I have many little lives.
Mm. Mm.
There's my life of training Muay Thai and MMA. There's my life of training wrestling with my wrestling coach, jiu-jitsu, my father, who's been
Mm.
my first teacher. And for MMA, everyone comes together for that,
Mm.
to support me. And that love and that energy of it kind of all revolving around me, but at the same time seeing they all have relationships with each other too,
Mm.
and those moments together are just priceless. And this was the one where, of course, it was the big one, right? Everyone was there, and that 24 hours from our dinner, the night before, all the way until, winning the title, in our celebration the night after, that night of, uh, that's definitely the highlight of my career for sure.
Man, like another dimension to it is, and I would just like to briefly touch upon this, is, in terms of you winning that title, is all the additional self-doubt that you had to go through that was only revealed later on. Um, I have to ask you, like, what's the state with your health right now in terms of that brain condition that you're having? Is it something that you still don't know how will develop in terms of your MMA career, or is it just something that you kind of like are that you're kind of pushing to the back of your head?
Well, it's hard to say. It has been kind of pushed to the back of my head, a little bit, in the sense that I don't have symptoms, and there is no
Mm.
treatment. And so until I have symptoms, until, I have a seizure or vision problems, headache problems, something that is affecting my health, I don't see a point in dwelling on it, you know what I
Mm.
mean? And letting it ruin my happiness or anything like that. I am healthy right now. I'm very grateful for my health. It makes me feel more grateful, and grateful that I had that experience and got to do everything that I did before, it was too late.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like have to get consistent scans done at least once or twice a year just to keep up with it and see how it's developing. But no one's going to do surgery until I have symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
And since I don't have symptoms, all I can do is just live life to the fullest, until there's an issue, and then maybe I need to get a piece of it removed and have a surgery. But and even then, the surgeries are very routine. There's doctors out there that do cavernoma surgeries, all the time, and to remove the collections of these extra vessels that are in my brain. And most of them, there are a couple that are a little deeper, but the biggest one, in fact, is right on the outside surface. So they wouldn't have to go very deep to pull it out. And there's no like very serious things that they could run into. So on that sense, I'm very lucky that the locations of my cavernoma are not super threatening. I'm lucky that I don't have any symptoms. I've been getting hit in the head basically my whole life, and nothing's ever happened. So I'm just very grateful. But I'm not going to let it stop me from living my life. Of course, I can't fight right now, but there's very little data and information about this condition in people competing in extreme sports or combat, with it. And my goal is to gather more information. I was actually supposed to see some more great doctors back at the end of March, but quarantine hit and I couldn't go. So, I'm going to keep seeing doctors, trying to learn more. I would love to get approved to do one more fight at least, and just go out on my own terms would be nice. I don't see, it's not going to be the same. I'm not going to be, really trying to, get a belt and hold the belt for as long as possible. That was my original goal, and all that got kind of taken away. But being able to do one more just to say goodbye on my own terms would be nice. But otherwise, my health is good. They say that there is an extra risk, but it's very, very minimal. And if I agree to it and I can get the commission to agree to that, then maybe I will be able to do one more. But if the commission says no and it never happens, I'm content. I gave everything I had, and even though I wanted to defend that belt and hold it for as long as possible, I still achieved my main goal, which was to win that belt, win that world title. So I have nothing to complain about. And, right now health is good. I get to do jiu-jitsu. So that's nice.
To come back to the original love.
Yeah. And it's special for me. And even now, with everything that's been going on, I don't know. It's been nice to have jiu-jitsu in this time, where I was worried about my school and just the world in general. It'd be too much if I was thinking about, I got to defend my belt. What's going to happen? That's a lot. It's just a lot of weight on your shoulders, and so to be back in jiu-jitsu and just sort of meditating with the gi on and getting to compete in the gi, it's the perfect time. And I think everything works out, for all the right reasons.
Yeah, especially on the long run. But coming back to this is just something that I'm really interested in, is there's no treatment for that condition. But on the other side, when the symptoms do arise, you've decided that would be the point, or actually the doctors decide that would be the point where they would operate surgery. What about the things that would happen after the surgery in terms of recovery? If you were to get your surgery done, would you then afterwards be able to compete?
Jiu-jitsu, of course you can get random elbows or kicks in your head or whatever, but as long as I'm not getting hit in the head, it's okay. So That's just something that I would have to, if that time ever does arise, I would just have to take it from there. Of course, health is number one. I'm not gonna risk my health. I mean, I kind of did in London, of course. Like I was aware of my condition, but nothing was going to keep me from having that fight. So that was different. And the acceptance and the place that I was in, that state of mind, I think is why I was able to be victorious. Because I was literally fighting that fight as if it was the last fight of my life, but I don't, I mean, I want to be healthy. This is, health is number one. The whole point is being able to do what I love for as long as possible and share it with as many people as possible. I want to have a family, and so I'm not going to risk anything, but, as far as I know, jiu-jitsu will be okay. And there's a lot of people that have what I have and never have to have surgery. They never have symptoms. It's just one of those things that, you have to see what happens. Sometimes it's an issue for people right away, and they have surgeries when they're little kids, because of their condition, this condition. Other times people live with it their whole lives and never have one problem. And so, of course, I'm hoping I become one of those people. But no matter what, I want to create awareness about it and hopefully help others that are suffering with this condition.
Yeah, understood, man. But nevertheless, we're gonna continue seeing you in jiu-jitsu. That's what matters for us.
That's right.
So, in order to wrap it up, because we're almost at the 1 hour mark, I would like to ask you two questions. The first one is, of course, what's in store for you in terms of jiu-jitsu matches in the future? What are you aiming at, if at something concretely? And, the mandatory question, your advice for blue and white belts.
Okay. So right now, like I said, I'm happy to be back in the gi. I really don't even have any desire to be doing no gi right now. The only reason why I did all those no gi matches is because my focus was MMA, and now that I'm back in the gi, I want to be here for a while. So the plan is basically to keep competing for Fight to Win. They're the first ones to really get the pro cards back going, and just keep defending my title there. So you'll probably see me in action almost every month.
Okay, nice.
I should be back in action here in a few weeks, actually. We're working on it now. So, that's the plan. Just to enjoy jiu-jitsu, get my school going again, start getting back out for seminars. I have a lot of cool projects in the works. I'm working on a book, working on a new website.
Cool.
And so just trying to make the most out of this time and being productive, and just working as hard as I can. So
what's the book gonna be about?
Oh, it's going to be a little bit of everything. Some, a little biography-ish as far as me sharing my stories and life lessons. But it's mainly going to be like a motivational kind of self-help book. Okay. And nice. Basically just trying to pass on the knowledge that I've gained and help people apply it to their lives no matter what. It doesn't matter if they're a fighter or a jiu-jitsu guy or just someone that has, maybe an entrepreneur, anyone that has goals and dreams, artists, whatever. I just want to help, as many people as I can with my journey, through my journey. And so I've been working very hard on that. I have a Facebook group that I started and kind of sharing more with those people, and getting them in the inside scoop on what I'm working on and more access to me. And so everyone's welcome to join. They can find it by going to lovatojrfans.com, and that'll direct them to the Facebook group. So, there's all that. I stay busy, man. Stay busy. Otherwise, my advice for the white belts, I would say, have fun and just keep showing up. Have fun and keep showing up. It's, it's going to get better. It always, I mean, it doesn't stop getting better. I love jiu-jitsu even more today than what I did yesterday. My gratitude, the lessons, everything it's given me, it only gets stronger and better. But a lot of times white belts can be really hard on themselves. They start comparing themselves to others. Oh, someone else is moving faster up the ranks than me, or they learn faster than I do. Just shut all that out. Enjoy, focus on your own journey and what it's giving to you, the feeling, of achieving your movements and just getting more flexible, getting stronger, living the lifestyle, making friends, just purely enjoy it. Have fun, no pressure, no
Mm.
pressure. For the blue belts, now's the time that you have to start studying. You have to be with a focused goal. Once you're a blue belt, you have the ability to try and explore so many things because now you have some base skills. You can see something on the internet or whatever and say, that's what I want to do, and then you do that for a day or a week, and then next week it's something else, and next week it's something else, and it's something else, and it's something else. And I think that's why it takes so long. Like someone could be a blue belt for a year, 2 years, and you say, hey, what is your A game? What is your A game? And they really don't know. Well, I do a little bit of this, and then I do a little bit of
Yeah.
this, and because they've jumped around so much playing with things, it's great to play. I don't want people to not think that they shouldn't explore, but be specific, and you can't jump around. Once you dive in on something, you need to give it months, not a week or 2 weeks, otherwise you're only going to get that much of it. You have to give it more time, and make that your goal. And then it's like, okay, now I'm playing this game and I'm getting the A and the B. What's the C and the D and the E and the F? Like, how can we go deeper and deeper and deeper? And that's where you build a game, and that's how some people can virtually master a specific position or technique even before they're a black belt, because they figured out what they wanted to focus on, and that's all they did, and so they could be a purple belt with a black belt level, pass or guard or like close guard or whatever, because that's all they look to do, for several years. And so they had that amount of time in on that position, right? And that's the most important thing to me. I think in order to go from blue to purple, you need to have a dialed in A game that it doesn't need to be complete. It's probably going to be either bottom or top, but you have that, you have that A game guard dialed down, and you're able to sweep people that are purple belts, maybe brown belts, even maybe black belts, because you got it down. That's what you do. And that's what's going to get you to purple. And then once you're purple, it's time to start looking at the flip side. If it was guard, now it's passing. If it was passing, now it's guard. And we start to even things up a little bit.
So it's basically like you get to the blue belt, start experimenting with positions, but as you get a little bit more mature of a blue belt, getting your way to the purple, pick a position 2 or 3 and really focus on it. And as you get into a purple belt, you really got that one position, maybe not dialed down really, but a lot better than the other ones. And once you're the purple belt, it's about becoming more complete,
Defense.
right?
Yeah, submissions, defense, connecting everything. That's right. And the exploring that you do as a blue belt is just to find that thing that you love. Once you found it, right? If it's close guard, spider guard, lasso, berimbolo, whatever. Once you found it, you got to stay there. Okay, I like this. This feels good. All right, now you're there. That's it. Don't keep exploring. Oh, I like that one, but I don't want to try this.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna like a lot of stuff. Once you found that one thing, give it the time that it deserves. And if there's something that can connect to it really well, then after you kind of got that down, you can explore a little more with something else that can connect to it.
Mm.
So for example, if you have a triangle and maybe, that's your thing, you love triangles, you play spider guard and you're shooting triangles all the time, you could start to explore letting go of both sleeves and going to the collar and
Mhm.
pulling them into your triangle from there,
Mhm.
That's just an example. And so then now you can create some setups for your triangle with the hand and the collar versus always being double sleeve, you
Mm.
know?
Mm.
So just an example.
Yeah, it's like experiment, but when the time comes, be focused and do what you know you
Yes.
need to do.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Hey, man, thank you very much for your time and thank you very much for the advice that you've given on your whole story. I'm very much looking forward to reading that book. Is there like a set day that you have in mind, or is it just like the beginning of work on the
Well,
book
I
itself?
didn't get started until quarantine,
Oh,
came.
okay.
So right now I'm just about 2 months in.
Hmm.
There's a lot more work to be done, of course, but I'm hoping to have it completed by the end of the year.
Yeah, man, fingers crossed. Very
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
forward to it and thank you for your time.
Yes, my pleasure. And I know this is mainly a European podcast, and I just want to say that I've spent so much time in Europe over the years,
Hmm.
and I love visiting. I love all the different countries and culture, and I look forward to spending more time there, teaching and exploring more amazing places and people there in Europe. So thank you all for the love.
Yeah, man, and Europe is waiting for you to come back as well. Thanks, man.
I can't wait. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.